The Emperor of Mankind is mysterious as fuck. No one knows his real name, his actual form, or if he even meant for the Imperium to turn into the dumpster fire it is today. He doesn't speak, doesn't move, yet somehow the Imperium is convinced he's still guiding them. They're so insistent that there's an entire zealous Space Marine chapter dedicated to his cause. Is he a god, a man, or just Stephen Hawking in disguise, kept running by the endless human sacrifices of terrified psychers? No one knows, and frankly, no one dares ask, because the last time someone tried, things went badly. What we do know is that Big E has secrets in his closet so massive that if they ever got exposed on Jerry Springer, reality itself might crash. The most surprising secret was that Big E wasn't just mankind's questionable daddy, he's also the fifth Chaos God, which is friggin' crazy. You'd think that Horus would be the chosen one to lead humanity to hell. But nope, Big E just yoinked that role too, because if there's one thing he's good at, it's terrible parenting. This spicy new chaos entity, the Dark King, doesn't even have cool villain motivations. He just wants to destroy. No master plan, no 4D chess, just, what if I deleted reality for jokes? He was so overpowered, I'm sure he could have broken the fourth wall and entered our reality. But luckily, he'd be distracted by all the amazing games we have in our world, such as the one by today's sponsor, Warhammer 40,000, Tacticus. If you've ever wanted to experience the grim, dark universe of Warhammer 40,000, now's your chance. The best part is you can experience it from the palm of your hand. With over 80 champions to choose from, you can either purge heretics in the Emperor's name or betray humanity for your own dark crusade. Feel free to devour the universe as the Tyranids, or you can defend humanity against them and play as the Blood Angels. I personally enjoy Tacticus, as it's unique from other mobile games. It actually demands strategy and not just mindless tapping or idle gaming. It also keeps things fresh with different game modes, such as PvP, guild battles, and survival raids. And with the cherry on top, they have dedicated developers who interact and listen to the community. Tacticus is built to evolve just like the war that never ends. Download now and use the February code on screen for free rewards to jumpstart your journey. Anyway, back to our regular scheduled programming. The Dark King's first cameo was right at the worst possible moment, the final act of the Siege of Terra. During the battle, the Emperor realizes he's totally screwed. He couldn't beat Horus and save humanity in his current form. So, he drank from the warp like it was a cold one. He slams it back like a freshman at their first party, and boom, he gets a fat buff from Games Workshop. But, to the surprise of nobody, absolute power does corrupt. And suddenly, our boy starts hitting friendly fire on God mode. Friend or foe, Big E went around nuking them out of existence, including his own custodians. At this point, Big E was one edgy monologue away from permanently stepping into the dark side. But fear not, the Emperor's old buddy, Olanius Person, rolls in with a clutch intervention. He tells Big E to believe in the heart of the cards and gamble humanity's entire future on the power of friendship. And, against all logic, it works. The Emperor force quits the Dark King and stops himself from becoming the fifth Chaos God. The scary part is that there's nobody left alive that knows about this. They have no clue that Big E is one bad acid trip away from deleting reality. This is still the best kept secret in 40K. But you know what's scarier than becoming a Chaos God of annihilation? A positive pregnancy test. And you know Big E has seen a lot of those. You see, the Emperor protects, but he definitely doesn't use protection. I mean, come on. The man's a 12-foot-tall, psychic, reality-bending mega-chad. You think he wasn't pulling? The dude's basically the ultimate fusion of Zeus, Andrew Tate, and that one gym bro who calls himself an alpha. Let's do some basic math here. Tens of thousands of years alive, god-tier genetics, rich, powerful, and has literal psychic powers. He's for sure got the highest body count in human history. No contest. We're talking Cleopatra? Probably. Marilyn Monroe? Most likely. Jennifer Aniston? Wouldn't even be surprising. But the man-horse stats aren't really a secret. It's just nobody knows the exact number, not even the Emperor himself. He just lost track of it. Truly, the greatest mystery of Warhammer 40,000 isn't the nature of chaos or the fate of the lost primarchs. It's how many baby mamas Big E has out there. And before the great retcon purge by GW, these biological spawns of Big E actually had a place in the lore. They were called the Sensei, and like many kids raised by single moms, their dad, with a weak pull-out game, went out for milk and never came back. Most Sensei had no clue who their deadbeat dad was, living their lives in blissful ignorance until puberty hit. That's when they awakened psychic abilities, immortality, and an uncanny resistance to chaos. Basically, Big E accidentally created a bunch of OP anime protagonists. Some of them joined the Illuminati to wage war against the Chaos Gods. Others, burdened with daddy issues, pulled a full Anakin Skywalker and decided that if they couldn't get a hug from their old man, then humanity didn't deserve to exist. These emo rejects became the Grey Sensei, dedicated to purging mankind out of sheer spite. Eventually, GW said, "Fuck these overpowered characters." So, they had the Inquisition hunt them to extinction. Turns out, Big E was a terrible father, not only to his lab-created primarchs, but even to his own flesh and blood. Now the question is, how did the Emperor pull so many ladies back in the day? Because, let's be real, modern dating is a war zone. Unless you're rocking the holy trinity of 6 feet, 6 figures, and a six-pack, you're basically gambling every time you swipe right. But lucky for Big E, he wasn't just in the meta, he was the meta. In fact, he could be anything you wanted to be. Whatever your kink, the Emperor could manifest it on demand, because when you're the most powerful psyker in history, catfishing on Tinder is almost a given. You see, Big E could manipulate his physical form either through illusions or even at a molecular level, similar to Magnus. But what did he really look like? Was he always the Mega Chad dripping in power armor, radiating golden fire from his halo? Well, sources differ. The Lion claimed he saw a man who matched his ancient Hittite roots. Dark skin, long hair, medium build, probably looking like he just walked off the set of a documentary. Meanwhile, Corvus swears he saw an old man in a bathrobe, which frankly tracks with the kind of existential exhaustion you'd expect from babysitting dumbass humans. This begs the second question. What did these women call him in bed, aside from Big E? Because let's be honest, the title God Emperor of Mankind doesn't exactly scream pillow talk. You see, he's gone by different names throughout history. Alexander the Great? That was him. St. George? Also him. The man's been rebranded more times than a failing startup company, but his earliest recorded name was Neoth. That's what his favorite baby mama, Erda, used to call him before she ghosted him. But his actual name doesn't matter. Whether they whispered Neoth in the dark or moaned God Emperor in reverence, humanity has settled on one universal truth. Everyone just calls him Daddy. Now, since the Emperor was pretty busy conquering women and planets, people love to slap labels on him, a ruthless, genocidal megalomaniac with tunnel vision. But really, he was just a chill guy trying to juggle 18 demigod kids, an empire, and the occasional exterminatus. He had to put up the tough guy act so the Xenos and traitors would submit. The best-kept secret was Big E was just an emotional sap. Sure, he treated his primarchs like throwaway tools he could use for conquest, but deep down, he probably cared. I mean, the man built them a literal lakeside resort under the Imperial Palace, nestled in the frosty embrace of Mount Everest. There were 20 luxury apartments, one for each son, including the 2 lost ones that got yeeted out of the lore. Deep down, Big E still believed in a day that all of them could sit at a table with their father as equals and talk about matters of the Empire. Imagine the potential sitcom where Angron punches a hole in the drywall, Fulgrim won't stop flexing in the mirror, and Lorgar keeps trying to start a cult in the communal kitchen. But alas, the dream of a wholesome family dinner never happened. Instead, we got betrayal, heresy, and a cataclysmic civil war. Now the resort sits abandoned, an eternal reminder that the Emperor really thought he could fix generational trauma with real estate. The last big secret about the Emperor? He wasn't nearly as xenophobic as legend would have you believe. Sure, the Imperium's propaganda paints him as the ultimate alien-hating overlord, ruthlessly purging Xenos with a vengeance. But dig a little deeper, and that narrative starts to crack. For one, his ties with the Eldari ran surprisingly deep, arguably even deeper than those of his ever-diplomatic son, Guilliman. And we all know how cozy Guilliman got with them. But the real kicker? The Emperor and Eldrad Ulthran were practically best buds, a revelation that would send any 40K conspiracy theorist into a meltdown. It doesn't stop there. Big E wasn't just friendly with the Eldari, he borrowed from them liberally. Their sword techniques? He mastered them like he'd been grinding Eldari fencing tutorials on YouTube. His golden throne? Powered up with Eldar tech, though he never exactly credited his sources. And while most of humanity was still figuring out space travel, the Emperor had essentially downloaded the webway into his mind, complete with shortcuts and toll-free routes. This was all courtesy of the Eldar. So, next time someone calls the Emperor a xenophobic dictator, just remember, he had that one alien friend. You know, to prove he's not racist and is inclusive. Thanks again to today's sponsor, Warhammer Tacticus 40,000. Download today and join me on our journey to purge the heretics.